Listener discretion is advised.
Oh, God. Frankie replied on Twitter. Let's see what. He went to a myriad of college football championship games. What the fuck does that even mean? Come on, man. Good Lord.
Tell him that you've gone to fantasy football championships. Does that qualify you?
Oh my God! You know what he fucking wrote on here?
No.
He went to a myriad of college football championship games when he was coaching in college, so he's had success at multiple levels. No, not sure where you're getting your information from, Shane. What the dude?
What is going on?
Frankie Myers wants to hire fucking Brad Childress as the next head coach of the Bears.
Are you already fighting with the new guys, man?
He's been in a myriad of championship games. He coached at Wisconsin, Utah, Northern Arizona, and Illinois. What the fuck is he talking about?
Chachi,
what's up?
Phil, how would you feel about if Brad Childress was named the next head coach of the Bears?
not a fan of that at all. He's not on my top 10.
Frankie wanted me to list him 10 reasons why he shouldn't be.
His haircut alone.
What hair?
The comb over.
Does he still have a comb over? I thought that was gone.
Oh my God, dude! Now I'm starting to get pissed off. Frankie's going all in on this shit. I said I see no reason at all why Ryan Pace would tie his career to Brad Childress. Frankie says that is 100% fallacy. I guess having the best record in the NFC North as a head coach of the Vikings means nothing. Oh my God. What the fuck is he even talking about?
Oh, this is going on outside in the Twitter. I thought you guys were DMing.
No, this is on Twitter. He
Shane and Chachi are going at it on Twitter.
Well, Brad Childress was never a fucking head coach. He was never a head coach.
How about you invite Chachi on for a segment?
Let's give him his own show. Let's find somebody named Joni, and we'll have Joni and Chachi. All right, let's get started. And now we join the John Fox Show, already in progress.
I think it was a good break for all the coaches and really all the players. Everybody in the building needed a break, and so you just kind of get some rest. You don't realize really how tired you are until actually you get to sleep till 8 o'clock. Yeah, so it's.
Well, and not only that, the moment you relax.
Yeah,
it's like a day and a half later. It really kicks in. You're tired.
Yeah, well, it was. It does catch up with you, and it was nice to have those 4 mornings sleeping in, and so you're really rejuvenated, and it was a lot of fun to be out there today.
Are you the kind of guy that are you able to separate, or do you constantly start thinking about football and circumstances and moments and what's next? And do you do that, or do you really get away?
Well, I think, physically obviously got away, but, it never really leaves your mind. There's things always turning there, but, I think, I really like this football team. I think, we've improved. I see, how they respond to each other and really kind of play for one another. So I think, that's a real big start, and now we just have to execute a little bit better in all 3 phases. And if we can do that, there's really, I think nobody we've played or nobody left on our schedule that we can't compete with.
This is Beers 100 Proof. I am Aldo Gandia, and I'm not laughing. Fewer and fewer people are laughing at this Chicago Bears football team. And that might mean that the chances of John Fox being looked upon as the joke that he really is are becoming less and less. That's one of the topics we'll discuss tonight. And when I say we, I of course mean the stars of our little nightclub act, Draft Dr. Phil Ottochian and Shane, the smartest man in the barroom, Marsaw. They are both here and ready to hit center stage. We'll save talk about Fox's job security for later in the show. Gentlemen, I prefer to start by making an announcement. After 4 shows of giving the opening act duties to Shane Marsaw, I am ready to break that streak tonight and direct my first question to Phil Ottochian. Phil, what do you think of Shane? What do you think of Shane, Phil?
Shane is. I coined him the smartest man in the bar room, but I gotta confess, he's been a little bit moody the last couple weeks. I know he's been itching at Brad Childress possibly being the next head coach.
Oh. I'm tapping out if that happens. I'll tell you right now.
You can't.
In all honesty,
I've been recording the last 6 minutes of you complaining about Chachi wanting Brad Childress.
Frankie's telling me he was a head coach in college, and I've yet to find where he was a head coach in college. But maybe I'm 100% wrong.
There's one thing I've learned. There's certain people you don't want to get into a debate with on Twitter. Shane is one of those guys, and I end up dragging ass into these debates with him. And,
Shane
sometimes I walk home with my ball because, I've won. And then most of the time, I've never heard Shane say I was right. So he's like, I'm older than him, but he's a bigger brother somehow. I don't know how this happened. But Shane didn't even get to listen to Bears Hour Live last night, where I waxed poetic about Aldo and Shane and the Barflies. So, in all honesty, Aldo, I want to say something sweet and nice to Shane.
Okay.
Lay it on.
Drum roll, please.
Are your pants on?
I got my mailbag, my fan mailbag from across the pond. Getting some fan letters and confessions. But anyway, I just think that this show and Bears Bar Room
Are you waiting for the symbol? Because it's about 40 seconds away.
It never comes. It never comes. It's like me on a Friday night.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm like Sting.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. Whose kids are those?
The mailman's.
How do you know you had a roundup that way, Shane?
Hey, everybody needs stamps.
Wait a minute.
Anyway,
I think the symbol's coming. Hold on. Shit.
Holy.
Boy, that was...
Holy Larry Mayer. I just wanted to say Shane is such a great influence, and his creativity. We joked about it last night that he does absolutely nothing to help our creative process. But in all factual and all facts being considered, Shane is always behind the scenes, dropping knowledge, and really just, I think the world of you, Shane, being on this show and doing and really being a teammate, giving your time away for pennies on the dollar that Aldo pays us. So
I'll take a penny. A penny. I'll take a penny. Hey, we do have a little bit of breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Frankie just admitted Brad Childress was never a head coach in college, so cleared that up.
Frankie. Takes a big man to admit when you're wrong, Frankie.
I just think we have a great thing here at Bears 100 Proof, and I'm glad Shane Marsaw is a part of it, as well as Aldo. I think the barflies are responding and growing, and I think, you know, at the midway point, you got to give out grades, Aldo. So I'm going to give Shane an A for his performance thus far through 8 weeks. He started out with an F with his Mike Glennon and Dow Loggins support. By the midterms, he's really pulled up, and now he's been able to bring it to where he's supposed to be, the smartest man in the barroom.
He has.
Listen to that.
Nice. He brings it at every show, and when he's not bringing it here, he's also bringing it off air because he's just accumulating so much knowledge that he shares with us on the show. We're very, very grateful, Shane, and your penny is in the mail.
Thank you, sir.
If you haven't got a penny, God bless you.
All right, guys, let's talk a little bit of football. Mr. John Fox had a press conference yesterday. You heard, actually, that what I played in the beginning was from his show on ChicagoBears.com. And I listened to, I think it was about 20 minutes long, and I honestly have to say he had nothing interesting to say.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, this is Jeff Johnny. I mean, you are ridiculous, Coach.
But
They write out the questions, push it across the table on the note card, Aldo, and they allow John Fox to read it. He gives the nod of the head that it's okay. Joniak pulls it back, and then they get their 12 questions.
That's right. All right, here's what I wanted to start with, Phil. Mitch Trubisky has Trey McBride III and Dontrell Inman. Those two guys might be starting on Sunday against the Green Bay Packers. He has probably had fewer snaps with those guys than you've had with those guys you play flag football with on Monday. How concerned are you in, having coached and scouted players? How long does it take to get some chemistry going with your wide receivers, especially at the NFL level? I understand that Trubisky's been staying late after practice and trying to get Inman get a flow with Inman on those pass patterns. But are you concerned at all that this could take longer than we'd like to see?
It is definitely something that is important, but what they're doing is the only way to combat it, and that's build your relationship all on and off the field as well as after practice. So hopefully they're hanging out a little bit. You get to know the person. I always ask my players to bring people under your wing, established player, young player. Bring him out, include him in what you're doing off the field and build that camaraderie. But also it forges a level of trust and body language awareness. It's not the Jay Cutler kind with the camera, but the reality on the football field where you're understanding the acting skills at the stem of the route. You're understanding the lean and the gait of a football player. Really these uncommunicated things that you just, if you haven't played the game, you don't know, and they're real. So when people talk about, I don't want my client to throw at the combine, there's a real sense that I understand, but at the end of the day, if the quarterback that's being assessed, not the dilly off the subject here, but if the quarterback is worth his grain, he throws the ball because it is just the formulated reps of accuracy and knowing that they know their route. So that's the next step into this assessment is he has worked with Trey McBride. In fact, it looks like that's his most comfortable target because they work together on the practice squad or the scout team. Trey got cut, then he put on the practice squad, then he got pulled back up. This pattern of personnel has happened many a time before, as Shane and yourself can attest. But with Inman coming in from another team, working on the reps off the field, I feel as though you really, if you're worth your grain of salt, if you do the little bit of homework with the player and you really get to know one another after practice running routes, the understanding should be obtained pretty quickly. It's not going to be perfect, but I don't think a certain type of quarterback that's built on accuracy and athleticism should be too concerned about that just yet. I think the size, ball skills of Inman is going to be a quarterback's friend, having a catching radius that's outside the box and outside the numbers, so to speak, of what he has. I think Inman is going to be a welcome addition. We're going to see how 2 weeks of game planning and preparing this wide receiver is going to be factored into this too, Aldo. But I'm not concerned about it for this game. I really am. I think they're taking the steps. I read that too, that they've been working afterwards. That's my tip of the cap. It seems like everything's a full go for this player to play. I hope we get to see him out there, Inman, that is, going forward. And I really think we neglect to recognize another fault of this staff is the kid Wright. Kendall Wright really seems to have a trust built in game with Trubisky. You see it on the mesh point pop pass or mesh point slant route that you've seen him complete to Kendall several times. That relationship too shouldn't be going unnoticed. It's questioning why that player, Kendall Wright, isn't getting more reps, but Gentry is, who hasn't been getting open whatsoever. Like I talked about last night at BHL. Something's got to happen with the personnel and the formations for me to recognize that they've done what they needed to do with 2 weeks to prepare for Green Bay.
Shane, you want to give us an update on your debate with Frankie Myers about Brad Childress being the head coach of the Chicago Bears next season?
No, not really. I'm having a good night so far. I don't want to ruin it by thinking about Brad Childress being the head coach of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I just saw
talk to you a little bit about it, Aldo. I mean, I would honestly, all things considered, I'd rather have Lovie Smith back than hire Brad Childress. And I mean, that's a big deal for me to say, but absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm not a Brad Childress fan, Frankie, so I'm on Shane's side here. All right. Shane, yesterday on BHL, I asked Phil a little bit. Actually, somebody on the show asked Phil about the Inman trade and whether giving up a 7th round draft pick was a good thing. And obviously, Phil said, that's ridiculous for anybody to question that trade. Do you feel the same way?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think one thing that we can't forget about is that it wasn't just a 7th rounder straight up. It's a conditional pick, so there's some stipulations tied to that if San Diego gets a pick at all. So, I mean, the better he plays, it's more likely that San Diego will get the 7th round pick. But there was such a need at the wide receiver position for Pace to go out and really get somebody so cheap that I don't want to say he's got a ton of upside, but for him, I mean, he had over 800 yards last season in San Diego. And as excited as we were about a guy like Cam Meredith, he put up similar type numbers. And Phil kind of hammered home the point that I was going to bring up with him was that catch radius. And that just really makes Mitch Trubisky even more of a factor with that. He's such an accurate passer. That's going to make, Inman being able to go up and get the ball, that's going to make life a lot easier for the offense having a go up and get it type guy, because with the type of wide receivers that we currently have rostered, we don't really have that guy, and he's a big body that can. Hopefully, we can see some slants and see him bodying up some guys, in the end zone and going up and getting the ball that way. But if somebody is complaining about throwing a 7th rounder to try and fill a hole and give your young quarterback another weapon, maybe that person's got some other issues. I have no problem with it whatsoever. I mean, I was fully prepared for Ryan Pace to invest into another wide receiver at the trade deadline, even after he got Inman. So I'm totally on board with that.
Well, and speaking of trade deadlines, were you surprised that the Bears didn't pull the trigger on another deal? And I've got a follow-up question to that, Shane, but why don't you answer that question? Are you surprised that Pace wasn't a little more active at the trade deadline?
Well, the fan in me really wanted him to be, but at the same time, I try to look at things from a couple of different perspectives, and I kind of understand it in a way. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. You can, if you went out for a guy like Jarvis Landry, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent, you're getting an 8-game audition with him. In those 8 games, everybody says, every rep is important. So you give yourself 8 games with him to build a rapport with Mitch Trubisky, and then, you can make your offer from there. But I guess the fan in me was a little bit surprised. The realist in me really wasn't that surprised, because the Bears have a 1st, 2nd, no 3rd because of the Trubisky trade. They have 2 4s, a 5, and a 6 in the 2018 draft coming up. And if you can go out and sign a guy like Jarvis Landry or a guy like Devontae Adams, who obviously wasn't a trade candidate here in Chicago, but just guys like that, you go out there and you're throwing them money and not giving away draft compensation. That's probably the wise play in the long run. So I know it's kind of a cop-out by really saying yes and no to both your one question there, Aldo, but if it was me, I would have made a move, because, like I said, it was just, to me, it's all about Mitch Trubisky and giving him every chance to succeed. And to me, an 8-game audition, even with a pending free agent, is worth it, depending on what you had to give up. I mean, you can't go out and give up a 2nd rounder or a 1st rounder for a guy like a Jarvis Landry that's an unrestricted free agent, unless there's some sort of a wink, nod agreement under the table. And I don't think any player would be willing to do that and potentially risk millions on the open market the way that, because almost every team has ample cap space and teams are willing to overspend pretty wildly, as we see every free agency period. But if it was me, the fan, I would have made the trade, but me, the realist, probably would have showed a little more patience and sat back and tried to attack it in free agency.
Well, and the follow-up question that I had was actually from Benjamin Drizgula, who on Twitter addressed the two of you guys and myself, asking, is it possible for us to discuss what's going on with the trade deadline and all this activity that we saw this season, and do we think that's going to become the norm? Shane, do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to become the norm, because I think, like I just alluded to a couple minutes ago there, you see these teams, this cap is going up and up and up and up every year. So teams have the ability to take on these larger salaries. And I think the farther and farther away we get from the good old boy network, Phil knows what I'm talking about, and I'm sure you do too, Aldo, with these older head coaches, you see this young group coming in, like a Sean McVay, for instance, that are going to look at things a little bit differently than these older guys do. And you saw the Rams go out and give up a 2nd rounder to Buffalo for Sammy Watkins. So there's a classic case right there. And I just think that you're going to see these teams willing to take the risk, because at the end of the day, yes, draft picks are worth their weight in gold, but they're still risky propositions themselves. And I think just the cap space alone is going to make it more so that we see more trades and put them pushing back the trade deadline also to around Halloween. I think that helps because these teams, injuries can crop up at any point in any given time, and we as Bears fans know how that goes. And I think if you see yourself being able to make a run, or you're in contention and you know that you can go out and secure a young wide receiver or a young player that maybe just needs a change of scenery, I think you're going to see the triggers pulled on more deals like that in the future.
Phil, you got a thought on that topic?
Yeah, I think Shane's 100% right. I think the further you drift from the good old boys network, the recognition that money and draft picks can be recouped, especially when teams are on the clock. We always forget all these deals that transpire on draft day. If you have a higher position in the draft, then your ability to trade proven talent and get it into your franchise, then you should do that. And that's just how I think and how I roll. I'd rather have a proven commodity than I always see these people tank for first, tank for this pick, tank for more picks, higher pick. They should lose. That's not how you win. That's not how you have a winning culture. So the Chicago Bears have stunk for so long. It's almost like we're at the crossroads here. And I don't want to jump to the next topic, but I want to make sure the importance of this Sunday needs to be addressed on this show because we have to speak on it. But the importance of the franchise and building blocks, as we talked about on Bears Hour Live, those gems like Akeem Hicks, Jordan Howard, those are huge foundational pieces. Now you got to take this young rookie and build around him. And if you're going to find established talent that's fitting the head coach and the system, none of this is going to work. In looking at this, Aldo, if they don't fire this head coach, fire this fucking guy. Otherwise, we're looking at the similar scenario of piecemealing this together and really ultimately not putting the right pieces or making the right, like Kyle Fuller, homegrown talent showing out. Some people are going to be concerned about, he just did it in a contract year. That's not how you have to think. You think about philosophy in your system and the talent that he's brought, what he brings, and you invest in that. And there's a trust in every investment that player is going to give 110%. And when you're looking out there, and I talked about T.Y. Hilton getting that guy in the fold and giving up a pick with the understanding that you're probably going to be in the upper half of the draft and you can trade back and retain draft picks later, but you wouldn't find that kind of talent in the draft. And for your franchise, things that are missing, you try to move chess pieces out there. And I think that's going to be a bigger part of what Shane was talking about, the younger class. Ryan Pace is a young GM. McVay is a young guy. Dan Quinn, younger guy, trying to get, he's got to the Super Bowl in his first year of coaching. This movement needs to get in there.
Hey, Phil, Brad Childress is 61, so he fits right in there, too.
I know we talked also off the air about having a cerebral coach and really ultimately not wanting to change the subject topic, but it goes along with the whole philosophy of the importance of draft picks versus the importance of acquiring talent. And when you make those kind of assessments based on the priority of what position you're talking about, you already have your, as Shane said, 5 to 10 year plan with Trubisky right now? You know, if the Bears are drafting second overall in this next draft and quarterback's on the clock, you know, are you the guy, ask yourself, that is going to take another quarterback to be safe? Or are you the guy that's going to trade down and recoup picks? That, because of the high value that it'll stand for in quarterbacks being on the clock with you. So obviously, I think all of us are the latter, but that's where I think the plan of being aggressive in trading lower round picks with the idea that I can obtain someone who's proven now and then go into the draft, because we know we're not going to be going to the playoffs. I don't want to say that yet, but if you look at the big process of where this team is offensively, do you take the chance on building blocks for your quarterback now and knowing that you're going to trade back and add more through the draft? That's just how I would have handled the trade deadline. I'm different than Shane. I think Shane talking about the fan in him sometimes is smarter than Shane talking about these GMs, because a lot of the times it's important to be able to address issues in the here and now. I think he made a mistake letting Alshon Jeffrey go. That's where I feel about it. It's not what Jeffrey's doing on Sundays. It's what I know catch radius, high point talent that Jeffrey is would be a parachute, so to speak, for a young quarterback. Even if it was Mike Glennon needed that. And I thought it was just a terrible decision to even hold him again and be able to trade him as an asset later to get back some pick and a possible player to help your quarterback. Whatever it may be, that's how I see things. I think the trading stuff is going to continue big time. I think you saw, I think, the most trades that we've ever seen or close to it on draft day this past season, the Bears being a part of that. So I think this is the new age of the NFL. Shane hit it on the head with the rising cap. Since 1997, the cap has risen every year substantially. It's never not risen. So when I hear these little fraud nerds talk about, well, you can't spend money. I mean, we're so close to the cap. None of that matters. They're going to spend, and they're going to be able to fit and work it out. It's not your money. It never is. I never even worry about these contracts, only to the extent with how many years is he committed to. That's it. I want to make sure that a good player is committed to it. And I know I'm giving you a long answer for the short question, but I really feel as though those factor into now recognizing that we can obtain draft picks back, but we also need to establish, talent now. And I think you saw a huge trade with Garoppolo. You saw a huge trade with the left tackle, Dwayne Brown, going to Seattle. You saw a lot of movement, so to speak, and the Bears got Inman. I was just hoping they'd double dip with another receiver, Aldo.
Shane, do you want to debate Phil on this? He brought your name up a couple times.
No, I mean it's like I said, I'm debating myself because I'm talking about the fan in me versus the trying to look at it from a GM's perspective. And it's a classic case of a head coach wants a player now, and a GM obviously wants a player now, but he doesn't want to take away from his future for a guy that he could get, he could just sign for money and in 3 or 4 months anyway. So, I don't think there's any right or wrong reason. There's been times it's worked out by waiting. There's been times that teams have been burnt by trading early for a guy. So, another thing is if you trade for an impending free agent and he goes out there and balls out, any number that you're starting at is going to be starting at the tag number. So, that's another way you got to look at it too. So, nobody wants to believe that finances are a part of it, but unfortunately, in the NFL, and it's always going to be a part of it. It's just the way that it is. But it doesn't mean that I'm right. It doesn't mean that Phil is right, or vice versa. It's just one of those things, and we'll see. At least he made the trade for Inman, and I'm still going to stick to my guns. And I think when we go live on BHL on the opening day of free agency, I'm almost positive we're going to see a day one wide receiver right off the bat as a big money signing from Ryan Pace.
Listen, guys, I just got this report that the Brad Childress is over at Hallis Hall, and he's talking to Ryan Pace right now about his philosophy on how to deal with players during the bye week. Let's listen in.
They're going to sit in a deer stand or sit on the beach or contemplate their navel, whatever it is that they care to do, they're free to do as long as they're back here on Monday. This is a long, grinding affair, and you don't beat up the players and you don't beat up the coaches when you have a bye. You just don't do that. I mean, there's something to be said for fresh as well, fresh bodies, fresh minds, fresh brains as you go forward.
I don't know, Shane. He sounds pretty reasonable to me. Do you want?
Oh my God! Yeah, I'm ready to run through a fucking wall. Naval first. You go from John Fox to somebody worse, rallying the troops.
He could mesmerize everybody into falling asleep at halftime. That's for sure.
Oh my God! It's like listening to Scottie Pippen with that low voice and not really making any sense when he talks.
It was really an amazing dynasty in Chicago, and I'm thankful to be a part of it. Thank you.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, some guys are just better offensive coordinators or coordinators in general. It takes a special kind to be a head coach, and I think you're seeing it play out for the last some odd years here, from Lovie Smith to Mark Trestman.
Ew, gross.
To John Fox. And I think this is no shot at anybody. I'm just not a fan of that coach as a head coach, of leader of men. And I think that there needs to be somebody in here with fire and maniacal passion for the game of football. And the cerebral coach.
Youthful enthusiasm.
Yes.
Youthful enthusiasm.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people will laugh about that, but I think that's something that Chicago needs. And you don't need these mad scientists like Mark Trestman and Mike Martz. And like I said, back to Frankie promoting Brad Childress, that's fine, and anybody can be open to whomever. But I think there's probably a reason within the NFL that Brad Childress hasn't been a head coach since, 2010? So, and that's just like what Phil said. That's completely fine. And Phil, you said you alluded to it last night, being Robin to somebody's Batman. Some guys are just like that, and that's completely fine. And he's proved that with the success that he's had under Andy Reid, and that's totally fine. It doesn't mean that he's a bad coach. He's probably a wonderful coach. He's just not a guy that I want as the head coach of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. I do have a list of head coaching candidates, Aldo.
Why don't you whip out that list?
Let me whip it out. How about whip it? Whip it good. Remember that 80s song? Devo. Yes, Aldo. I wonder if Shane would have been able to answer that trivia question.
Well, give him Give him another one. Give him another one, Phil. You got another 80s trivia question?
Yeah, Shane, are you ready? Who sang this song, Shane?
Oh no, we're gonna rock down to electricity. Electric Avenue. And then we'll take it higher.
We're gonna rock down to Electric Avenue.
Was it
Then
Men at
we
Work?
take it higher.
Jesus, Men at Work.
I don't know. Who was it?
Eddie Grant.
Oh, okay, I have no idea.
Men at Work.
I'm terrible at shit like that.
How old were
Trivia
you?
like that with
For our
music and
Australian crowd.
Hey, Shane, how old were you in the 80s?
Yes, sir.
How old were you?
What's that?
How old were you in the 80s?
Well, that's a whole bunch of different ages, Aldo. There's 10 years there, so what year do you want?
Give me a range. You're 20s?
I was born in 76.
Oh, shit. You were a kid. Oh, my goodness.
76 trombones in the big parade.
I was buying about 76 grams of cocaine.
I was 3 years old in 76.
Holy cow. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I grew up in the 80s too. Arcade games, the arcade, the drive-in theater.
We still have a huge drive-in theater here with 2 movie screens that I haven't been in a while, but I know it's still a hot spot around here where I live.
Yeah,
hot spot for dating, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I was
I
having.
used to have a few fun dates on the fucking drive.
I was gonna say in the 80s, I was having sex on water bags.
Oh yeah.
All right, you got your list with you?
Oh yeah, I'm whipped it out.
Whip it out and let us know who's on your list of top coaching candidates, and that'll act as a prelude for our discussion about Fox's future with the Bears, which we'll have in about a half hour or so.
Well, I sit down and I think about these things, and Shane and I have known each other since dial-up, and never had the pleasure of meeting one of my best friends. So hopefully this reunion of sorts will come together. But he knows young Phil Ottochian, posting on a message board, had such a fiery disposition, as you all could tell. And in there, I don't know rules and regulations of caps and all this other stuff. I just don't know that kind of stuff back then. Now I know Twitter etiquette and all this other garbage, which I don't follow. But, my big all caps was this young coach in San Diego that was a former Bear that had crossed paths with my uncle, Sam Rutigliano, and the praise was there in regards to his father, Jim's father, being a former head coach himself in the family, and Jim really being a rising star and a real student and love and passion of the game. And the more I heard about it, the more I remembered how much I really absolutely loved Jim Harbaugh as a Chicago Bear and what he brought to the table there. And I think stats and everything didn't do it justice, almost similar to what it is you're seeing with Mitchell Trubisky with the wide receiver situation and tight end talent. Jim really made things happen on his own if we look back on those days. But Jim Harbaugh, to me, obviously has ascended through whatever. But I was there at the infancy of it, knowing that Jim Harbaugh was one or two with Lovie Smith in that situation, because Lovie was the backup because they really went after Nick Saban really hard, who's also a friend of my uncle's. So to hear the whole thing now, looking back, and Jim was one step away from being the head coach of the Chicago Bears, which on the record, he's never retracted or refrained from saying and stating that's his dream job, to take over the Chicago Bears and bring them to victory. To me, I don't know if there's a guy that brings more passion and enthusiasm to the coaching position. And I just absolutely believe in the guy's offensive mind. I know Jeremy Kramer out there. I love Air Jer. A lot of people have questioned me, but look where San Francisco is now that he's gone and how far they have fallen. It's remarkable how far they've fallen without Jim Harbaugh being their head coach, and the drama that transpired in upper management, having a power play versus somebody who needed the power to know what he needed to win. And to me, Ryan Pace would be fired tomorrow if that was the case for Jim Harbaugh. I would clean house. I'm talking Ted Phillips, everybody gone. It's Jim's game. Grandma Hallis is giving it to Jim because he understands the importance of the charter franchise. And don't ever judge the book by its cover of what's going on at Michigan as far as the quarterback talent and what he's running offensively. All that stuff changes with the personnel, as we're talking about Dowell having to do so with his talent, needing to understand you don't run your offense, you run an offense predicated on what you have as far as talent is concerned. That's Jim Harbaugh. He's willing to do everything and anything to dominate, and that's the kind of coach you want. It's number 2 would be Josh McDaniels getting a second shot. I'm not going to go into every guy because we'll be here all day.
Hey, Phil, real quick before you get too far away from Harbaugh, I'd just like to add one thing to him, and I think it's something that's very, very important, is you bring in a guy like Jim Harbaugh, you have a very good chance to also keep your defensive coordinator. And I don't think that can be overlooked. To continue that on the defensive side of the ball with these young players that are been around for Vic for a couple of years now, I don't think that that's something that can be undersold. If you can keep the consistency there on the defensive side, because you know that the offense needs to be completely overhauled. Harbaugh can do that himself and really turn the defensive side over to Vic and just have him do what he does. So that's something that I don't think that we should forget that could possibly come with a Jim Harbaugh package to Chicago.
He is the smartest man in the room sometimes, I'll tell you that. Most times, I should say.
Whoa, how did that qualify there? Sometimes.
I said I did correct myself and say most times.
Okay.
It's on the record.
Most times. All right, who's number 2 on that list again?
Joshy McDaniels needs a second shot. He's a young kid taking over the reins of an NFL franchise, a lot of pressure in that situation. He'll be the first one to tell you the errors that he made. I just believe that he's someone offensively that thinks like I do and how you need to attack NFL defenses and really help a young quarterback. I think there'd be I can't say there won't be a better choice, but I think you can't argue what a great choice he would be when his focus is coming from a championship caliber franchise who he was able to return to, didn't burn bridges, loves the game, understands what it needs to do offensively, as I said, knows the importance of the quarterback position. And I believe humble pie to some people is best served hot. And he took it like a man and really went back and assessed himself to who he is. And he's a definite guy that I believe would do wonders here. And he's another guy who Vic Fangio, I believe, would stay on for and be a part of that philosophy with him. So I wouldn't count that out either. I think McDaniels really deserves another shot. I don't know if Shane wants to comment on McDaniels. I take that as a no.
No, I'm sorry. I was fighting with my mute button. No, I'm a fan. I couldn't stand McDaniels when he was in Denver. He seemed like just a cocky little asshole that let all the fame and power go to his head. And like you said, Phil, I think he went out there and Denver started that year off with Kyle Orton 6-0, and after that everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket, and he got knocked off that pedestal kind of quick and went to St. Louis for a year, and then ended up right back in New England with his security blanket. And it's just, I think it's part of a maturity process. It's no different than really raising your kid. You got to kind of give them enough rope to go out there and get in some trouble, and you hope that they can see the errors of their ways and make the corrections, that'll make them a better person or a better coach along the way. And I think when I see Josh McDaniels, Phil, and I know you pointed this out multiple times, he is that maniacal guy that's going to be, in the office at 3:30 trying to figure out, what he can do to beat the Green Bay Packers. Just trying to come up with that one play that will do it, and they won't come up short like they always do. And I think that, is something that's going to be good for our quarterback. And you can count me in on the Josh McDaniels train, absolutely.
I think you make a great point. Maniacal to the extent of one play, 1 inch being the difference in games. We always say it in cliche, but there is a method to the madness of a coach being in the referee's ear, a coach being in this player's ear, and really being, the good cop, bad cop. You got to love your players. You got to build that bond and that relationship where you are getting the most out of them, and they're going to know the expectation. I think McDaniels on a second shot to obtain that position would be honestly just karma in such a funny way, because he essentially got Cutler here, and you went through the Cutler years, and then Cutler leaves, and then ultimately McDaniels comes in and then wages this prophetic rise and resurrection of a championship quality full team. We've seen so many great defenses here. We have not seen so many great offenses, and that, let's be honest, it's an offensive game. It's a quarterback's game, and you really have to have somebody in here. I don't care if it's a defensive coach or a special teams coach, but you have to have someone calling plays and an offensive mind here that's going to build around Mitchell Trubisky and his talents, not somebody guessing and being predictable, where to the extent where it's a comedy where coaches are sitting in a room together and we're calling out fucking plays left and right to the extent based on the formation. If we're doing it here, I just can't tell you how easy it is for teams that are paying people to do it with HD coaches game tape. But I digressed on that.
Hold on, Phil, hold on a second.
Go ahead.
As when you mentioned Jay Cutler's name, I have his phone number here. I give him a call. Jay, are you there? Okay. Phil wants to bring in Josh McDaniels as the Chicago Bears head coach. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, hell no!
Yeah, I don't think he's a big fan of that, Phil.
That's the most animated Jay's ever been.
Really? All right.
Honestly, one thing, quick story. I was down in New England, Bears, Patriots practice. I was able to ask Cutler a football question, 2 football questions. The guy's personality in person is so funny that football brings him to life. And, the maniacal questions that are rhetorical, so to speak, knowing what they're trying to do. It seemed like that puzzle game where you slide it to the left and you keep finding the open. He understands where the ultimate, reason and rationale for the questions were. When I ask him a football question, he's laughing, and I think you saw that kind of personality out of the guy. So I don't know, it came to my head when he was like, oh, hell no. Probably he would answer it like that.
The guy brought a lot of drama with him, I'll tell you that.
Well, there's no doubt about it.
That was the soundtrack of Jay Cutler's career here at Chicago.
I thought that was Aaron Lemming pronouncing Chris Ballard as the GM music. Sorry.
Bum, bum, bum.
All right, who's
My
next on the
guy's
list?
David Shaw, Stanford.
Oh, I love this guy.
know. I just, the guy is not a boisterous kind of guy. Almost, I know Shane doesn't like that or gets concerned, but philosophically, its ability to change offense on a drop of a hat, the communicator, the tough love, everything I see out of Stanford, huge academic school, trying to recruit talent there to compete the likes of USC and Alabama and in these giant big schools. This guy's been able to do so, and really ultimately I believe in the man. I just think that he's someone that has been lured 100 different ways to come to the NFL because of his intelligence. I know he was handpicked by Jim Harbaugh, so another connection to Vic Fangio staying here. So you're seeing me and Shane are kind of thinking on the same lines of trying to keep something that's really building upwards intact. And I think David Shaw would be a really good coaching candidate to come in here and turn around the culture.
I like that pick. The whole idea of bringing in a college coach is becoming more and more appealing to me because it's fresh blood, it's fresh thinking. I think that the pro game is starting to mirror a little more and more the college game because of the fewer practice times, and you just sort of have to kind of devise schemes and game plans that players are more familiar with. And so, we've already seen a lot of the college football game infiltrate the NFL game, and I think that's just going to continue. I mean, that's where your pool of talent is coming from, so perhaps it's a better idea for the NFL to mirror college football, and bringing in a college football coach just makes sense to me. He's number one on my list.
Really?
Yeah, I got him number one. Yep.
Shane, anything on it?
Yeah, I'm not quite as high. He's definitely not my number one, and I'm not as high on him as you are, Phil. It's probably not a real great reason. I see a lot of Lovie Smith in David Shaw, and for some reason that just turns me off. I don't know. I mean, David Shaw has a lot of experience within the NFL, and what I do like about that is it's on the offensive side of the ball. And to me, more than anything, I want an offensive-minded guy in here. Like I said, you guys have heard me say it 100 times. I want this entire thing about what's best, what's going to be the best for Mitch Trubisky moving forward. Because as he goes, the Chicago Bears go at the end of the day. That's why it's so important. And we know in this league, you either have a quarterback or you don't. And if you have one, you're going to be in contention almost every year unless there's an injury. So he's like I said, he's down my list a little bit, and it's not a real, probably even a valid reason, just because I don't know if I see that maniacal in him. But it is, like you said, Phil, it's another great point. He was the OC handpicked by Jim Harbaugh at Stanford, while Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator there. So that is another guy that could give you that consistency on the defensive side of the ball if he does come here. But I would put him lower on my head coaching hierarchy moving forward.
Shane, Shaw or Brad Childress?
I would take David Shaw absolutely 100% over Brad Childress.
All right, end of discussion.
I don't think Brad Childress is in my top 75 head coaches.
You'd rather have Virginia McCaskey on the sideline?
I'm falling.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, I think. No, but I'm like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm beating Frankie to death because everybody has a right to their opinion. His just happens to be wrong in this case. I'm sorry, Frankie.
Frankie
has an invitation to come on the show. Frankie has an invitation to come on the show and debate Shane on this topic.
We need a segment.
Yeah, let's add another
Frankie
show to the network.
Giant. My number 4 candidate is Dave Tobe. Bears fans are familiar. At some point, the reality of the guy's coaching success on special teams, I've always been a big believer in great special teams coaches really make great head coaches because they're already having to deal with talent from both sides of the football coming together, learning and working together. Those kind of communicators, my other uncle, Larry Pasquale, he was a special teams coordinator in the NFL for 32 years. He's been all over the league. He's just a tremendous coach. His goal was to end up being a head coach, but head coaches wouldn't let him out because he was so good at special teams. He would be hired on the spot. And I just believe in Dave Tobe. You saw the creativity here. You saw the things that he was able to accomplish with the Chicago Bears. And really, ultimately, I believe he has the maniacal in him. He has the ability to control a locker room and the ability to really understand the importance of the quarterback position. He's definitely someone that needs the opportunity. That's it. And I believe the team that does do that, I mean, my belief, if Pagano is gone, I believe he's going to end up being the next head coach of the Colts. If it's not the Chicago Bears, he's my number 4 guy.
I think these special teams guys, like you said, Phil, I think they, at the end of the day, these guys are coaching guys on both sides of the ball. So I don't think that is something that can be overlooked. You look at a guy like John Harbaugh, got his start as a special teams coach with Philly, and what he's done down there in Baltimore, going from special teams coordinator to head coach. It's something that can be done. And, Dave Tobe has been a great at every stop. And, it's just, I don't know. I really don't have a great feel how he would be as a head coach, but I think he's somebody that knows the organization and who knows if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think he probably knows the hierarchy and how things work above Ryan Pace. So maybe that's something that he may not want to get involved in, but I guess we'll see. But I think that's a great connection that you put him there with Ballard in Indy.
My next guy is Morton from the Jets, the offensive coordinator. You see how the Jets are high-flying, Josh McCown there, just a really great offensive mind coming to the top. And really, that's what you're trying to, hitch your wagon to, somebody who's able to create for the offense by formations and all the things we talked about, countless hours that Dowell and company and John Fox failed to do. Morton is somebody that I'm very interested in how he's going to interview, how he's going to take on this role. And the man himself, just going through my channels, is thumbs up in regards to what I've been able to gather for Bears Bar Room, that this guy is ready to be a head football coach in the NFL. And the people that I talk to, I believe in, and Morton is high on my list because I feel like the maniacal offensive mind that is necessary to help bridge this young quarterback into the future of what you're trying to build here. Not everybody's getting Tom Brady. Not everybody's getting 23 straight years of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Injuries happen. You look at Minnesota with Teddy Bridgewater. You look at Cleveland, how many failures despite the first-round quarterback. It's the snake-bitten thing. You really, as I said on Twitter, I tweeted out, the most important free agent signing and position is head coach, because everything runs through him. Every little minute point in the game that, this game comes down to one play. It goes through John Fox, and you've lost 27-0. That's just how this game is played, and it really seems to be. And Morton's somebody who I really want to see get interviewed and be a part of the process there, because if he blows you away with the plan and his demeanor as a man, then really, you gotta jump on board that train. Next guy's Frank Reich. He's with obviously a former NFL quarterback, played for the Bills for years, brought his team back. I think the greatest comeback in playoff history. You know the stories, but here's the guy that's held the clipboard, is a leader of men, understands the quarterback position. You look at the leaps that Carson Wentz has grown, and you try to look at how he would handle his own house. And really, is there a better example of him, just a leap than this young quarterback in Philly who played well last year and is playing outstanding football now? I don't know how anybody could gripe with what this kid's been able to do as a junior, by the way, or sophomore. I had him going in the first round, Aldo, for Bears Barroom and Bears Beat at the time. I just felt like the talent's there, the foundation's there. You hope these guys get into great coaching situations. So Frank Reich leading and taking over this franchise, I believe, would be a great thing as well. Right there with Johnny Morton, Morton. And then you go to Jim Bob Cooter, big win last night versus Green Bay. Obviously a hot commodity. Fox wanted him here to be the offensive coordinator. He was denied. Finally got his shot to do it. Has really progressed, and Detroit has gone better in the last few weeks. You like Jim Bob Cooter because you like him understanding key matchups. His game plans are creative. He uses the talent, the slot position so well in the interior. It makes a quarterback comfortable. You saw a lot of screen game, slot screens, seam routes, using formation and motion to isolate Golden Tate on a mismatch. That kind of stuff can happen with a smart head coach and offensive coordinator. Jim Bob Cooter is someone I definitely am interested in seeing him come here and interview for the job. And you guys could, if you want to chime in on any of these, please let me know. Mike Vrabel is my number 8 guy. Here's a former outside linebacker, high round pick by the Steelers, actually got cut by the Steelers. They weren't happy with his play. Picked up by the New England Patriots. Then the rest of the story, becomes a Pro Bowl, all-pro football player. Just always a leader and a very studious defensive football player who is a leader of men, has worked his way up the charts now as the defensive coordinator in Houston. And really, I just like the guy. And I like guys that are going to get the most out of their football team. And I believe, despite injuries and losing maybe the top defensive player in the NFL, arguably, in J.J. Watt, and then one of the best rushers, and merciless. Their defense is playing strong. They're always ready to play. Obviously not the greatest defense in the NFL, but a leader of men and somebody you got to interview. You got to see what the plan is and understand the type of person. They'll give you pause because he's not an offensive guy, but again, a young, maniacal, energetic guy getting his first shot to grow with a young quarterback. That's ideal. And Vrabel has the type of personality. Number 9 really should be Chris Peterson, in all honesty, from University of Washington. Reminds me of former head coach Dick Duran and just how he looks and carries himself. He just always reminds me of Dick Duran. I don't know why, but the guy is a offensive genius and understands this game. And again, thumbs up on him as far as his readiness for the NFL game, his creativity, and his stone stare and real respect from his players about the type of man he is, turning around that Washington program and really ultimately what he did at Boise State, that program coming out of nowhere to be, a factor in on the mouths of a nation of football fans when Boise State was absolutely nothing in regards to football. And he really built that program, and he's doing the same thing in Washington. Think about him with a young quarterback really excites me. Really, got to sit down with the guy to see if he's going to transition to the NFL. But he's really someone that Bear fans should really get to know and start to pine for. We asked you to go out there and be loud and be barflies and promote the show and promote things and really take us to the next level. Same thing here with a coaching change. You want somebody that's going to be dynamic, not somebody who's going to be catering to the upper management. We need someone who's a football guy. Chris Peterson fits the bill there.
Shane, is there anyone else that you would want to interview, or has Phil covered every potential candidate in the world?
Yeah, he pretty much he went through a lot of them. Just one thing that I would like to point out, I could be wrong here, but I think with Frank Reich, I believe, didn't Fox wasn't he tied to Chicago at some point?
He was going to get an interview. I thought he was going to get an interview for the head job.
Maybe that's what it was. But I think these guys that are pretty much career backup quarterbacks, I think this is going to be kind of like a trend that we see too with these guys. And you look at a guy like Frank Reich, played Buffalo and Carolina and the Jets and Detroit. But he comes in as a not a head coach, but he started in Indy. He was an offensive, just part of the offensive coaching staff. He was an assistant, but he was around Peyton Manning. Then he became the quarterback coach in Indy. He was in Arizona for 1 year as a wide receivers coach, and Brian Hoyer was the starting quarterback there that year, so that's not great. But then from there he goes to San Diego, and he's around Phillip Rivers the entire time. He was the quarterback's coach there. Then he became the offensive coordinator. Then he goes to Philadelphia with Doug Peterson, another journeyman backup quarterback throughout his career, and he's around Carson Wentz. So I think that he's a guy that you're going to want to put a couple of circles around on any list that you have and kind of keep your eye on him as a guy for Chicago, because I think he's going to be – Phil had him down a little bit lower on the list. I think he's going to end up, at the end of the day, I think he's going to be very, very high on a lot of lists in the NFL, because his track record in the NFL as an offensive assistant, as a quarterback's coach, and as an offensive coordinator, he's worked with some big-time quarterbacks, and he's worked with, and obviously, too, with Carson Wentz. And I think he sees that chain of command that they built there in Philly, and you guys know my feelings on the Philadelphia Eagles, but I do have to give them credit.
Every time Shane mentions Philly, we need that sound drop again.
That ding, yeah. but I got to give them credit, because they got they're surrounding their franchise with other quarterbacks, and I don't think that can be undersold. Doug Peterson has seen everything in the NFL, and he was around Brett Favre, and he was around Donovan McNabb while he was in Philly, and Frank Reich being around Jim Kelly and countless other quarterbacks throughout his career. You want your young quarterback like Mitchell Trubisky to eat, breathe, and live football 24/7, 365. And I think, it would be interesting to see if Frank Reich makes that ascension to head coach, who he brings in as his quarterback coach and as his OC. And I think it's right in front of him right here in Philly. That setup, I think, is one you're going to see in Chicago. I really do, because I think Ryan Pace looked to a team like Philadelphia. They brought in the veteran quarterback, spent a lot of money for him, taking a chance. He went out, Sam Bradford in Philly. Well, that didn't stop him. They went out and got Chase Daniel, paid him a bunch of money, and that didn't stop them to make the big move up to go get the young quarterback in Carson Wentz. I think you saw Ryan Pace do the same type of thing when he went out and signed Mike Glennon. Yes, that didn't work out, but it didn't stop him. It didn't prevent him from going out and making the move for his young quarterback. And I think this next move at head coach, if they relieve John Fox of his duties, I think very well could be a guy like Frank Reich, who's going to bring in more quarterback-driven coaches on the offensive side of the ball to give Mitch Trubisky every chance possible moving forward.
You're not happy with Dave Ragone?
Yeah, I think you asked me that. Yeah, we get Dave Ragone and Dowell Hawkins and John Fox. I don't think it's quite the same.
The last coach I had, Aldo, is John Harbaugh. I think we talk about him real quick and saying, if there is the possibility of him being fired in Baltimore and them trying to turn the page on what's transpiring there, I'm for John Harbaugh being a part of the process, because I think he's done it before. I really believe that he's a very good coach. And, sometimes another man's trash is another man's treasure. And I just admire the guy, and I feel like he would be definitely somebody who needed to be interviewed and be brought in here to hear his plan and the coaches that he would bring with him to Chicago. So that would be my last. I got a boner. Perfect 10.
I like John Harbaugh. In fact, I would prefer John Harbaugh over Jim Harbaugh, but I'm going to leave that discussion for another day.
Oh.
Yes, so I would almost flip-flop that list of yours. But without further ado, it is time for...
Oh, yeah. It's that time of the show where you gotta go bring on the smartest man and his crew of tweeting fans and find the dumbest tweets of the week.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good, Shane. What'd you think?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It was definitely a step up from last week. I got to give it to my partner over there.
Well, I got to tell you, Shane, I went back and listened to last week's intros, and I don't think they were as bad as you thought they were. So I would, I would.
I know. I got a lot of good reviews for Ragu, Prego, Hunts, and Aunt Millie. Those are all sauces.
Aldo was on my side with that one.
But he quickly changed when Canada brought it up.
I'm gonna string all of them together, and we're gonna have a contest as to which one the fans like the most. I'm gonna do that.
Can we do that for like the Christmas special?
Oh yeah, let's do it for Thanksgiving, because we are so thankful that you're lending your creative energy to introducing the baddest tweets. And without further ado, Shane, take it away.
Yeah, it was interesting trying to delve into these tweets this week with the bye week, and I was slacking a little bit. So as I was going through some things over the last couple of days, and wasn't a whole lot of ridiculousness out there. I think some of the Bears fans needed to recharge their batteries and not essentially get away from football, but I think we all kind of needed to step back with our angst towards this coaching staff and maybe you rejuvenate our batteries a little bit. But there's always those special people out there, guys, that we can count on for completely odd tweets or really, really shitty tweets. So number one is going to be our Christmas caroler, Mr. Robert Zaglinski. At Robert Zaglinski.
He finally made it after all the
he
laid eggs of Twitter.
Yeah, and his hot take of the week here was Mr. Zaglinski tweeted out, regardless of why it's happening, I didn't realize saying Mitch Trubisky is currently one of the very worst quarterbacks in the NFC was a hot take.
Oh, God, no! I can't breathe! Oh!
And I realize, Robert, you're probably, I mean, if you want to be, the smartest man like I am, you should at least quantify it as you're talking statistically in your tweet. But it's just, I don't know if he's out there trying to rile up Twitter listeners or whatever it is. But at any point, I don't care if it's statistically speaking or not, there's only about 100 layers that you have to go through in any situation. And if any of those come up with Mitch Trubisky is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFC, I question any knowledge about football that you may have, because, like I said, put Mitch Trubisky on the open market and see how long he lasts out there. So we know the offensive ineptness and lack of coaching that Mitch is surrounded by here in Chicago, but to call him one of the very worst quarterbacks in the NFC is one of the dumbest takes since I've been doing this. So bravo to you, Mr. Zaglinski. Maybe you should stick to your Christmas songs.
You stupid.
They're not.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
Pum-pum-pum, Robert's a bum.
Now, by all accounts, Robert is a very nice fellow. I know he and Lauren Cox share Nutella burgers when they go to Bourbonade together.
The ambiguously gay duo.
So, Robert, if you're listening, please know that we're doing this all in good fun. But one more time, just for you.
You stupid.
They're not.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
You're a lot nicer than I am, Aldo. There was nothing fun about it. I thought it was a really stupid tweet.
All right, Phil. Well, I guess it's my turn. That's my cue to go like this, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it when you do that. Oh, yeah.
It's that time of the show that we all know. Shane might call upon a friend to come into window.
Into window.
And give
Oh, Phil!
of the week.
Phil.
You gotta stop rubbing your dick across that microphone
Oh,
man.
did I hit it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Man, you must have a huge dick.
holy. Well, 8.5 inches fully aroused.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Yes, that's like half your height.
I know. Yeah. My wife can't figure it out.
So here, this guy's a
Very,
tripod.
very, very happy.
Well, I'm gonna hurry up and get off these sick jokes.
Hold on, Robert Zielinski's calling, please.
Yeah. the bar room is usually a very clean place. So, but no, I'll dive right headfirst into this one. I actually talked to you guys a little bit about this earlier, and I know we'll allow a window of time so you guys can chime in on this. Everybody's favorite Tribune reporter, David Haw, which you can find him on Twitter at David Haw, posted a hashtag, in case you missed it, of his article, which stated, despite speculation, John Fox has done more at midseason to justify keeping his job than losing it. Here is my column.
What the fuck was that?
Again, I think it's more of these guys. I really look at something like that as clickbait. If you can sit here and tell me that John Fox has really bettered himself this season, I'm going to put you in the Zaglinski boat and question your football acumen at this point, because everybody knows who the most important player on this team is, and that's Mitch Trubisky. And John Fox at no point should be anywhere around this kid's development beyond this season, and quite frankly should have been gone at the bye week, like we all said here at the bar room. So I think David's out there with some clickbait and trying to get us fans that are at the end of our ropes with all of this even more fired up. So we'll chime in. And I know the Tribune's on fire with brilliant people like Rich Campbell and David Haw. So
they're brilliant, I tell you, brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. But how you can justify John Fox has bettered himself this year. It's just, you want to talk about 100% fallacy. That's it right there. So David Haw, congratulations. You got my number one dumbest tweet of the week.
I got to tell you.
Oh my God.
Hold on a second. We got a visitor. This is my friend Carlos. He just finished reading David Haw's column. Carlos. Carlos. Carlos, hold on. Let's talk about the column. All right.
Are you sure that was Carlos? That sounded like Steph when she was heard Phil talk about 8 inches.
8.5.
Well played.
Oh yeah, 8.5.
Thanks for saving that comedic bit there. Yeah. Phil, do you want to go first?
I offered David Haw the opportunity to come on this show and talk to us about it. That offer will stand for the next 4 weeks for David Haw to double down like Heath Evans on stupidity, because the reality of saying that showcases exactly what Shane is saying. This is clickbait to get people amped up. I laughed at it, and I thought it was the perfect time to offer up a red carpet affair for David Haw.
Oh, that sounds lovely, Phil.
We could, we will wine and dine him. Aldo can make drinks. David could come in. He can order a few appetizers and can sit down and talk about.
Welcome, David.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Haw. He could talk about just what has John Fox done to say he's improved this team and really what he's going to bring to the future moving forward, piggybacking off of Shane Marsaw with Mitchell Trubisky. In fact, I thought he's done more detriment to Trubisky, as you heard last night on Bears Hour Live, than he's done anything good. In fact, they're still trying to write this story about him holding back Loggins. And really, that right there and above itself is horrific head coaching. So I don't see it.
I actually just got a DM from Mr. Ha, so he must be listening to us live. His one rebuttal was, "It is what it is."
All right,
Last year was "we have no plan." This year it is what it is.
I love it. I gotta isolate that sound for you, Phil, because I know you can sample it in one of your tracks.
I'm just gonna throw it in.
Let me read a little bit from David Hawes' column. If the Bears continue to play competitively over the next 8 games, given the schedule.
Thanks, David.
Fox stands a good chance of returning in 2018. That's not advocating Fox's return as much as acknowledging the realities of the Bears' situation. It's never as simple as checking a box whether the coach should stay or go. David, you and I have been friendly over the last few years, but you are fucking wrong. It is as simple as checking the box, because all you have to do is take out your checklist of coaching competencies, and you will soon see that this guy doesn't have a clue as to how to coach a professional football team anymore. He may have had some success in Carolina. He may have had some success at Denver. But you know what? Sometimes that doesn't mean shit today. The history does not mean that a person or something can be duplicated. What we have seen with our own eyes is a head coach who cannot manage a game clock. He cannot motivate players. He cannot inspire his offensive coordinator to come up with an innovative game plan for his young quarterback. He cannot scheme correctly. I can go on and on and on about what John Fox has done that deserves for him to get fired. It's as plain as the fucking nose on my face, this ever-growing nose. That I'm just wondering if this thing, why do people as they get older, their nose and ears have to continue to grow? What the hell is going on? What happened with intelligent design there? This is just stupid. It really is stupid. And David Hall goes on to write that he's got 1 more year in the contract, and the McCaskies won't want to pay $4.5 million to pay this guy for not coaching and so forth. That's all bullshit. The reality is that you've got your franchise quarterback, as Shane said early in the show. You've got your franchise quarterback. Now you have to marry him to a competent offensive head coach. Somebody who knows how to develop quarterbacks, somebody who knows how to game plan, and somebody who we can now want to go to games. Because even when Trubisky was named the starter, which created such a huge buzz, there were still 6,000 to 10,000 empty seats at Soldier Field. As a matter of fact, I got a ticket to the Packers game this week. Nobody wanted to go. Nice. Nobody wanted to go to a Bears-Packer game, so I was invited. So you know, this is just testament to what's going on here. And when David Hall says, given the schedule, when he underlines that, given the schedule, God. That he's saying he's saying that, you know, the guy's going to beat some really bad teams, so we have to bring him back. That doesn't make any freaking sense. That doesn't make any freaking sense at all.
That's aiming high, isn't it?
No shit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you pointed it out. It's like people drawing up their win-losses in the springtime. I always crack up at that bullshit. And then in this, he's doing the same thing, but he's adding insult. Well, they're playing shitty teams, and if he wins against the shitty teams because he's a shitty coach, you already know that. But then he has more of a case to continue to be a shitty coach for you. So that's how shitty the news media in Chicago is. I'm sorry. It's so bad. You should expect more out of your head coach.
And you should expect... I'm sorry.
The last time he won 3 games in a row, I think, was in Dick Geron or Lovie Smith's second year. So this is ridiculous.
No, Trestman started out 3-0.
Oh, there you go. Mark Trestman, 3-0. So right. Let's go 4 wins. How many times have we gone 4 wins?
Yeah.
There's no consistency whatsoever with the Chicago Bears, and it starts from the top, but it really is embarrassing on how many levels Aldo, all of us, can continue to go. And Aldo didn't even mention how porous he is at challenging plays. There was 3 or 4 plays in New Orleans games that he challenges the wrong one, for God's sake. It's like unbelievable. And you know what? There's 0% chance this guy's back here, in my mind. If Ryan Pace is going down like the Titanic and Cam Newton, then that's what he's going to choose to do, because there's just no way you can keep this guy on as head coach.
If he thinks that if he thinks that firing Fox is throwing away $4.5 million, I've got news for you. Keeping Fox is throwing away $4.5 million.
Very good quote.
It's throwing away a hell of a lot more than that, because you just watch the stands next year.
No shit.
And guess what? That virtual reality machine that they're taking snaps on costs $7 million.
Oh, really?
So, just choose which one you want now. Come on.
And again,
they're billionaires, David. They're billionaires, Dave.
Exactly. And I've got respect for David. I know how hard it is to write a daily column. You got to come up with bullshit, and you got to, you got bosses telling you, we need more readers. Write something provocative and stuff. But David, you're even giving yourself an out in the middle of the column, hidden in the middle of the column. He's saying that's not that I'm advocating Fox's return. Come on, David. Come on.
David's buying into his own bullshit, because if he continues to write shitty columns, then they got to keep him around, right? So it's all about job security, obviously.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around, David, and desert you.
Well, I got to tell you, David, you do have
It's been an 80s show.
Yeah, really. And that's not a good thing. It's been an 80s show.
Yeah.
I'm sure Frankie Myers and everybody else who is in their 20s is saying, what the fuck are they talking about? All right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Aldo presses the button. I gotta come up with something. But this week I ain't got shit but nothing. It's nothing. Just Shane Marshall's tweet of the week.
Well, I got to, Pete Rose, led the league, the major leagues in hits, and he struck out a lot of times too. So, Phil, that was a strikeout. You started out good, Button.
Hey, Button, son, I got nothing.
Shane, who do you got? I mean, I know you had a lot of choices for the great tweet of the week, and but I apologize. I didn't have anything for you to consider.
No, you did not win this week, Aldo.
Aldo's like our coach. He can't win 2 in a row.
Right, exactly. No, you're right. There was a lot of good ones out there this week to choose from, but they all paled in comparison to our winner here. And I'm going to throw some more love to Zach Miller, who recently got released from the hospital, and he was overjoyed and really emotional about all of the tweets and well wishes and thoughts and prayers that he received from people around the world and Bears fans and other NFL players. And he sent out a little message. I won't read the entire thing, but I'll just give you a little idea of what he said. He said, "My wife Kristen and I are so incredibly thankful for the outpouring of love and support that we have received from our family, friends, the McCaskies, and the Chicago Bears organization, fans, many players, coaches, and staff from around the NFL. Your well wishes have been extremely humbling and comforting." He throws a heartfelt thank you to all of the doctors down in New Orleans that helped him, the Bears training staff, And he ends it with, I understand the challenges that are ahead, but the amount of love and support I have from all of you is beyond inspiring. I thank God every day for this life. I ask for your continued prayers and blessings. You are the best family, friends, and fans in the world. I have been down before, and I will do whatever it takes to get back up. I love you all, Z. And that was just, I really thought that, everybody knows exactly how we feel here at the bar room about Zach Miller, but you see a guy, going through what he went through and has very likely played his last snap of football in the NFL. You may not think it's a big deal, but to me, I can't imagine going through, having something stripped away from you like that. And, for him to take the time and send out such a heartfelt message himself to, give thanks back to all the people that were supporting him. It just says more about the man. Like I said, he's a wonderful football player, but I think he's a special person off the field, and a great man. And Aldo, you mentioned it. You think he's got a future in the broadcast booth or wherever in Chicago, and I hope the Bears organization is smart enough to keep him around. But the best tweet of the week by a very wide margin is to Mr. Zach Miller.
Can't not argue with that. That is an excellent choice. Phil, you've got some words to echo Shane's sentiment there?
Yeah, I mean, if ever there was a more deserving tweet, that would be it. Excellent job by Shane, stepping up in the pocket, delivering a strike down the seam to the big tight end, which will forever be touted as the asterisk catch for 6 here at Bears Barroom. Clearly, I think it's been beaten to death by former officials, coaches, everyone recognizing Al Riveron playing Riverboat Gambler here and trying to sell you on some old bullshit that he didn't catch that pass when we all know the true story. So we're asking Barflies to tweet out asterisk catch for 6, whatever, and tag Bears Barroom in it and continue that to get the McCaskies and company to step up and do it right here. Try not to cover up this guy's, could be his last play ever, and really just thinking about the fact that that's how it transpired at the very end, and they also stole your touchdown from your rookie quarterback. You busted your ass to get to that level of football and come back so many times. Like, he's the Rocky Balboa, for God's sake, of the Chicago Bears. And I just hate the fact that it ended like that, because as Shane said, you could tell by his words, anyone that speaks from the truthful place in their heart, I just have such passion for. I just really do. I can't help it. I've always cheered for the underdog, and I've always had a special place in my heart for players that really give a shit about the game and their teammates and the team. And Zach Miller, just can't say enough good things about him. I just hope and pray that he could be some way brought into this franchise. I think we need a Zach Miller. Hopefully the next coach will think about hiring him to coach tight ends or be a part of this franchise. Like Aldo said, be a color guy and really bring to the table a better perspective than what you're getting in Chicago as far as people in the broadcasting business recognizing what's transpiring on the football field and with the Bears.
Yeah, and I have to just add in here that this horrific injury to Zach Miller just reminded me of what these players go through for our entertainment. And, a lot of times people bemoan, the type of money these athletes make and so forth. And, compared to teachers and firefighters and police officers, sometimes the world is not fair. But let's also remember that we're asking these athletes to put their life on the line. And we have seen, I was old enough when I saw Chuck Hughes of the Detroit Lions die on the football field at Tiger Stadium in a game against the Chicago Bears. And we're also asking them to, risk their health. These guys, I'll never forget the footage of watching Jerome Bettis on an NFL Films highlight show. Jerome Bettis on a Monday morning after a Sunday game, trying to get up out of bed and walking down the stairs to have breakfast. It took the poor guy 20 minutes. And why? Because he's out there sacrificing his body for our entertainment. And so when these guys make millions of dollars doing that for our entertainment, I don't have a problem with that. And what I have a problem with is us forgetting guys like Zach Miller, and I don't think we ever will here at the Bar Room. I don't think the Barflies will ever do. He's going to have a special place in our hearts. He's welcome here to talk to us, and I hope that, like Phil said, that the Chicago Bears find a special place for him. And I also love Phil's idea from last week where we commemorate that catch that he had as the asterisk catch is something that we are never going to forget, and we'll figure out some creative ways to remind people of the asterisk catch, because I thought that was a really special idea that Phil had to commemorate that catch, and the fact that the NFL referees with their incompetence took that away from him. All right, fellas, listen.
Gonna be a song, Aldo.
Oh.
It's gonna be a song at some point.
Oh, I like that, man.
Right,
oh, man.
Jot that down in the producer's notes.
Well, I gotta ask you. Maybe Shane
knows
knows
Bears. Get permission from Bears Girl. See if that's a good idea for a song on the Bears Barroom LP that we're working on.
Well, we need to make this a special announcement that Bears Girl, the young lady from Canada, is probably now a member of the Bears Barroom. We're going to give her the title of Director of International Relations. No, let's not make her director. Let's make her Vice President of International Relations, because she's bringing people together from all over the globe to the Bears Barroom, and we really appreciate her efforts. And in fact, I don't know if you guys heard, she's headed to the Detroit Lions game December 16th, and she's got a lot of the Barflies going where we're going to serve a beer, and I'm thinking I'm going to be headed that way too to meet up with her and a bunch of other Barflies. So hopefully you guys can go there too. Hey, that's the way I
roll.
Hey, he's gonna be topless.
I'm hoping other people will be topless. All right, listen, we're already
shout out to her though. She's
definitely
really carrying the torch for the Bears Barroom. She also did the cover graphic.
Yeah, I saw
the album for Bears Barroom.
She's taking my job.
Firefox, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's stepping up. So we wanted to send a special shout out, and that's what we're talking about. That's what I was talking about on BHL. Guys taking the baton, taking the leadership. AJ going down, promising. We haven't gotten to talk about this, Aldo. We need to address the giant giraffe gaff in the room. We have a huge game. I think this is the crossroads game for this franchise, because right now there's a certain sense, blood in the water, that you have a real opportunity to control your destiny for the playoffs. You've had 2 weeks off going up against a team that looked very out of touch and out of time. And Hundley looks lost out there. There's loafing going on. If you are going to play this team on a short week with 2 weeks to prepare, and you go up at home and you go out there and lose that football game, there better damn well be 50 to 100 Barflies with Aldo and his boombox at Waddle and Sylvia on Michigan Ave come that Monday morning playing the Firefox song, because he should be fired that Monday. It should be Black Monday early. There's no givens, and I completely agree with Shane, but there are expectations, and they're not great in this case against Green Bay. This is a game you should and you need to win, and if he loses, he's got to go. You got to see what you have in Vic Fangio. You just got to do it. It's just never been a more pristine time to bury, and I mean put them out of their misery, than now for the Chicago Bears and this defense and this team moving forward. I better see all cylinders firing on both sides of the football. And if not, in this it is what it is type of attitude, with the no kickers coming in and no switch with that, and him talking down again, not giving you injuries, playing that gamesman bullshit. If this motherfucker goes out there and loses to this Green Bay team, I will be willing to fly out with you guys to try to come up with some money to get out there, because this is a telling game. It is the mark of a champion here, of what type of person and what type of coach you are, and how these players are going to respond. Because there's 2 points here. Division rival who's embarrassed you at home. And really, what kind of revenge factor plays into that? It's the longest running rivalry in football. And 3, you still have an opportunity here to be a winning football team, and playoff implications rise off of this game. If they lose, Shane, I just don't know what to tell anybody, and David Hall might have to be looking for work.
Well, I'll tell you, if they lose, I am going to not only be in front of Waddle and Civies, but then I'm going to take my boombox over to the Tribune Tower and and stand on the top of David Hall's desk with my boombox playing your song. Shane, what
I sent out that tweet earlier today, just telling Bears fans to kind of pump the brakes, because I saw a lot of tweets being sent out that, we're going to totally destroy the Packers, and the defense is going to kick Hundley's ass and then knock him out. The Bears absolutely have the ability to do that. But as a rabid Chicago Bears fan, guys, we've all seen this over and over and over again. It's like Phil said, and I said earlier, there's no givens in the NFL. There's none. I mean, any given Sunday, anything can happen. And I mean, this team lost to a Blaine Gabbert-led San Francisco 49ers team at home, and I know circumstances were different with talent on the defense and whatnot, but you can't overlook this game. And you have a young team that's just trying to stack together some wins, and they're still not out of this. Even at 3-5, they're still not out of this yet. So, like Phil said, you want to see these guys come out. Hopefully they did a lot of self-scouting over these last 2 weeks. You want to see them coming out and hitting on all cylinders, especially on defense. And you want to see some steps made on offense also. And, I mean, you want to – hopefully they open it up, and who knows what the wide receivers are going to look like. And there's 100 different questions and 100 different avenues we can go. I absolutely think the Chicago Bears can win Sunday versus Green Bay, but at the end of the day, if they went out and blew the game, I wouldn't be totally shocked either, because I think we've seen it enough with this team over the long drought that they've had, being out of the playoffs, and even back when Lovey was here, it seemed like games that they should go out and dominate, sometimes they didn't do it. So I know some of the fans are cocky. Hopefully the Chicago Bears players aren't overlooking Green Bay, because I think that would be a huge mistake if they are.
Why are you doing this, Shane? No, really.
That's
why
the
are you
realist
doing
in me coming out.
No, you shouldn't do that. No, you shouldn't.
No.
I don't even understand, Shane. That Green Bay team sucks.
Yeah,
Yes,
And
they
you
do.
should have blood in the water.
I agree.
This is the head coach right here. This is 2 weeks, Shane, to prepare. No way to lose this game. No way. I'm telling you right now.
Step back from the mic. Step back from the mic. Phil.
Yeah, get your dick off of the microphone.
This
if they lose this game,
it's
this
over.
coach has to go. The season's over. They beat us and whooped our ass, Shane, without any of their tackles. They had five guards and a center on the field.
And what was the talk leading up to that game? Oh,
Exactly.
Chicago's defense. And that's. I'm not saying that the players aren't going to be ready or the
But now
coaches. My tweet
Aaron
was more-
Rodgers is the wart coverer.
Exactly.
That was your term. It's being stolen around. I've seen it.
Covers
He
a lot
covers
of
a lot of warts. And
Exactly. And when I sent out my tweet, it was more so, zeroed in on
you shouldn't
Bears
be.
fans talking a bunch of smack. We haven't earned the right to be cocky yet, was pretty much what my point was. But we'll see. I said that's why they play the games. If the Bears go out and dominate and do what they should do on Sunday, they should come away with their fourth win. But like I said, guys, anything can happen.
Let me tell you something, that if the Bears lose to the Packers on Sunday, I am going to lead not only the group down to Waddle and Sylvie and to David Hall's office, but I'm going to lead a group over to Hallis Hall, and I'm personally going to fire John Fox. I'm going in there with a SWAT team of barflies, and we're going to beat the shit out of anybody that comes in our way. I'm going to grab John Fox and throw him into my paddy wagon and get him out of town. Oh, man. All right, listen,
you gotta
guys.
do it.
Yeah, we are approaching 2 hours. 2 hours, and we still haven't done Bear Up and Bear Down. You guys still want to do it?
Absolutely.
All right.
Fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Bears Barroom Radio.
A bear up, a bear down. It's Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man around. A bear up, bear down. It's Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man around. A bear up, a bear down. It's Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man around. A bear up, a bear down. It's Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man around. A bear up.
This week, Draft Dr. Phil and Shane Marsaw, the smartest man in the bar rooms, bear ups and bear downs of the week.
A bear up, a bear down. Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man around there watching the tape and waiting. The game is done. The Bears have lost and won. They're playing the tape and grading. Bear up, bear down. Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man around there watching the tape and weighing. The game is done. The Bears have lost or won. They're playing. The boys are grading. Cheeto blockies, I take them out like my girlfriend. Smack 'em, flip 'em, and stick 'em until you can't bend. Till then I'm still, I got hype credential. Barflies born out fraud, brothers like Nintendo. 5'7" kind of a small one, but I still store bums. Key suckers in doldrums. As I'm speaking and taking a change in my English, I quickness to get rich. I like chalk, but not chips. Connecticut in the house, but the barroom's where I live. I'll bear up, bear down. Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man around. A bear up, bear down.
This is another fulfilling, funkified track.
Yes, yes.
I gotta tell you, while that song was on, I put on my my LFM bell bottoms and platform shoes, and I felt like I was back in the disco back in the 80s. All right. This week, we're actually doing something a little different with Bear Up, Bear Down. We are going to, because there was no game last week, we are going to identify a Bear Up player that we expect, when I say we, I mean Shane or Phil, expects is going to play well the rest of the season. And then the Bear Down player is somebody that we are afraid may not live up to expectations. Is that what we agreed on, guys?
Yes, sir. Sounds good.
I got it right, man, without a script. Holy cow. All right, fellas. Who wants to go first?
Phil's up.
It's my turn first.
All right, Phil. Yep. Attack.
The pack. Am I going Bears up, producer, or am I going Bears down?
Bear down.
To me, there's a couple of players in there, but I'm going to go with Bryce Callahan. I talked about it on Bears Hour Live, how the New Orleans Saints had identified him as the player they were going to attack, run a lot of screen game on him, and get against him some matchups. He was the matchup they were attacking. And to be perfectly honest, I expect more from the football player. He missed a lot of tackles in that game, and then he ended up getting injured. This is getting a lot of consistency with him being the injured part. And he's someone I feel like the close 1A, 1B to Crevan LeBlanc. I think LeBlanc is a lot more physical than him, and I really believe Callahan is somebody that might get replaced in the starting lineup. So he's my Bear down.
You know, I think that's a great choice. I have the very same concerns about him. And the fact of the matter is that this defensive backfield is so deep now that we probably don't need to see him on the field much. Hopefully that competition back there is going to spur him on, but I do have concerns that maybe we're starting to see the end of Callahan's career with the Chicago Bears. Shane!
Bear down.
Well, mine may or may not surprise some people. My Bear Down guy that I think, to me, overall is trending down. It's on the offensive side of the ball, and he ended up being not a huge money signing, but he was one of the very few that got a multi-year deal, and that's Deion Sims. I don't know. Phil can agree with me here. You watch the guy. I thought maybe the Baltimore, that catch was going to get him going a little bit. That touchdown that he had from Trubisky, he made a hell of a play on the ball, but then he'll go out and he'll do the old Kellen Davis and can't make a simple catch. And he was brought here for his blocking skills. And there's a lot of times when you're reviewing the tape that's just lacking, or not only lacking, it's just completely non-existent for a guy of his physical stature. I don't have a hell of a lot of confidence in Deion Sims moving forward, and I don't know. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch because he's got the talent to be something here and to be a security blanket for Mitch moving forward. But like I said, he's not doing a whole hell of a lot on putting up yards or even, like I said, with his blocking that's pretty much non-existent at a lot of points reviewing games. So Deion Sims for my second half of the season, you are my Bear down.
Let me ask you, Shane, were you surprised that the Bears today on Tuesday as we're taping, they activated Brent Brownaker?
No, I wasn't surprised at that at all. I mean, I think I think they're carrying all these tight ends for a reason. And, the unfortunate incident that happened with Zach Miller, I'm not real shocked to see them bring up Broniker. And they were saying that he's, really been working on his blocking and stuff like that. So who knows how he is going to contribute, but they've obviously see something in him for the, undrafted free agent out of Harvard, for him to stay around for 2 years. They must, he's obviously showing them something along the way that he deserves to be the guy that's called up. So overall, no, I'm not surprised that they brought up another tight end.
So I got to agree with Shane, although I think Deion Sims has not shown any consistency. One play he's dropping the football, the next play he's making a spectacular catch. And when you are trying to build up a rookie's confidence, you got to have a shoulder to lean on here, and that would be a tight end that's consistently at least making the catch. And Shane's also right. He'll fire off the ball, have good technique, be able to scoop, create the edge. And then the very next play, he's being tossed like he's a wide receiver to the ground by a safety or an outside linebacker. Honestly, he's so inconsistent, so up and down, and it almost makes you wonder how the depth chart should look based solely on talent and performance on Sunday. And it's exciting to see Broniker brought up. I honestly have my issues with this fullback, Bruton, and what his role is and how he performs on Sunday doesn't meet any kind of expectation of carrying a fullback on the roster. If you're going to carry one on the roster, he better be a bruiser that's destroying linebackers and making their day a nightmare. And Bruton or Burton, I still don't know his damn name because he's so underwhelming as a football player. I honestly thought about the worst football player I've ever seen start for the Bears, and the name Jason McKee is mine.
Really?
I thought he was the worst football player I've ever seen. If we go on tape, I could show you what a piss poor job the guy did.
That's a really good entire show to devote during the off season. I mean, we could talk for 3 hours on the worst Bears. I mean, and we can go position for position, and we can have a blast doing it because you go quarterback, you go offensive line, you go any position. We got a lot of choices.
Should we call it the Mike Lennon show?
Dedicated too.
So I'm gonna DM your producer to make sure she doesn't forget that needs to be on the agenda.
My producer, Bears Girl.
We got the Thanksgiving special, and now we have an off-season, the worst show.
Awesome. All right, so Deion Sims, you get this. And it's not the first time you've heard this angry mob outside your home, Deion. So you better get your shit together the second half of the season, because pretty soon they're going to knock down the doors. All right, Phil, let's end this show with some positivity. Who is your Bear Up player, the player that you think is going to perform really well the second half of the season? We begin with you, and then we'll end with Shane, and then we'll say goodbye to this 2 hour plus extravaganza.
Bear up! My Bear Up is it's honestly a toss-up between two players, but I'm going to go with my heart and soul and believe Shane will go in my mind and track the other guy. I am going to go with Jordan Howard as my Bear Up. The offense runs through Jordan. He is a phenomenal football player. I wax poetic about the guy quite often. Shane sent that DM picture tonight, and it really showcased a couple things to me, just how big Jordan Howard physically is. imposing in pads, standing next to Walter Payton. And really my all-time favorite football player ever, and seeing the size differential and then recognizing how important the two of them are to the franchise and what Walter went through and what Jordan Howard really has had to go through with 8 and 9 in the box continuously, and him trudging through bodies and carrying this football team should never go unnoticed. It'll go unnoticed in a narrative and a stat scout, but I believe barflies are very intellectual when it comes to the greatest game in the world, football. And really, Jordan Howard is golden goose. You know, he is everything I hoped he could be and way more. I can't say anything else about him. You got to feed that guy the football. And I think he is the perfect shoulder for Mitchell Trubisky to lean on. And when you got two of those, you really got to start looking of where else you have to build. And I believe everybody understands what they have to do to get this franchise to where it needs to go for Mitchell Trubisky.
I love the
But Jordan Howard is my bear up of the week.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? The ladies love it too. You say Jordan Howard, and all of a sudden it's a river, man. It's a river. Shane, you still awake?
Yes, sir.
Ready.
Yeah, I am.
3, 2,
Currently cooking baby batter, and
I don't cook it.
How is that?
I swing it.
you do.
I swing it.
Shane, how is that baby making duty going?
Bear up.
Oh, up and down. I got a couple bags under my eyes. But yeah, that's going to be a whole other show too, Aldo.
Is she going up and down, or
There's,
you going?
there's medication for
I think
that.
we both are at this point.
There's a little blue pill for the down part. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is
Yeah, I had two guys in mind. I don't think I'm probably going to pick the guy that Phil may have been alluding to, but I don't know. I'm having a problem picking either one of them because the first one I was going to go with kind of plays off my bear down. I think the tight end that we're going to hear from in the second half of the season, I don't think it's going to be Adam Shaheen. I think it's going to be Daniel Brown, but that's not even going to be my bear up for the second half of the season. This is a fabulous football player that I'm going to name, but he's the key to this entire defense moving forward in the second half as they hopefully make a surge here, and it's Eddie Goldman. And you're starting to see he's never going to be a guy that's making huge flash plays like Leonard Floyd, but when you review the tape, there's not very many people that are more fun to watch with what he does and what he's asked to do, because he's still one of the very youngest Bears on this roster, but he's a monster. Eddie Goldman is, and he's the key cog in this entire Vic Fangio defense. He's going to make Akeem Hicks' life easier. He's making Leonard Floyd's life easier. McPhee, our secondary, everybody. And as Eddie goes, this defense goes. And I think we saw that last year when he went down, and you saw the Bears starting to get gashed by the run. And negative is staying healthy. Eddie's really a force to be reckoned with. And I just don't want to understate the importance of the nose tackle position on this team. He's been nicked up and had some ankle issues, and he's got to keep his weight down. But he really is the vital piece to this entire defense, making their surge in the second half. And like I said, he makes everybody's life so much easier when he's playing dominant football. And you see this guy really throwing people with one arm at times, and it's a whole lot of fun to watch when you are reviewing him on the tape. And I don't think I can say enough about Eddie Goldman. I was really happy when they secured him in the second round of the draft. I texted Phil immediately, with how happy I was that they got him. And he's one of those guys, like I said, he's not going to make the huge flash plays, but he's a pillar to this defense moving forward. And for us to take even another step on defense, I think that's going to start with Eddie Goldman really balling out in the second half. So, Eddie Goldman, you are my bear up.
You could tell Shane didn't listen to BHL, as I said the exact same thing last night.
Well, you can cut this part out, Aldo. I just found out what was the wrong one of my
part D's.
There we go. Oh. Phil, I am so happy that you chose this music as our theme song. Really, I'm serious. I've never heard this before. It escaped me somehow. All right, I want to tell people that if you drink, please do not drive, and always bear down. And then I want to immediately get into our shout-outs. My first shout-out is to Gisette Elaine, who has become one of our favorite barflies. She posted something on Twitter the other day that she was at the doctor's hospital. There was some kind of health scare going on. She's still getting tests. I want her to know, and her family to know, that she's getting all of the prayers from the Bears Bar Room, from Bears Barflies, praying for her good health, and that she gets good news after these tests come in. Gisette, we are thinking about you, and keep your head up high. Things are going to turn out well. I just feel it. So, Phil, you usually do a fantastic job with your shout-outs. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, it's the Mike D shout-out section of the show, Shane. You got to shout out No Shave November AJ, who is the first barfly to volunteer going down wearing the Firefox anthem on cardboard signs, walking Michigan Ave in front of Waldo and Sylvie. How do you not praise that?
Yeah.
Like, for me, I need video footage, I need pics. This needs to be an all-out assault on Hallis and the McCaskies to make a change like Michael Jackson. You got to shout out George T. Ray, Big Papa Don, Aldo.
Oh my gosh, George.
I wanted to make sure I shouted him out. He's been retweeting and favoriting. Mike Cav.
CAV, Cav.
I don't know where. Mike Cav. Kevin Shannon. Big Barfly. Isaiah Robles. Aaron Quinn. B. Diddy needed a shout out. George from Canada. I just followed him to break the 666 streak, apparently, that I had. So I asked Bears Girl, that could be her new nickname.
You got a new name,
Canada. I was like, give me one person to break this, because I didn't know I had that. And I said, give me someone from Canada that reps the show and loves it. And she gave me George. So, George, I'm following you now. I'm expecting big things from Canada to support our show and to support the Bears Bar Room. The amount of support, though, has been tremendous. And Chachi, Nelson, my boy Nelson, our boy Timmy.
You broke up again. Your boy Nelson.
My boy Nelson and my boy Timmy. Timmy. Big Tony, T-Sips 31. How about Ben Driscoula? I just like to say it.
Yeah,
Driscoula.
Me too. Yeah.
Sounds like something my grandmother from Sicily used to make when I was a kid.
Oh God.
Give me a bowl of Driscoula.
It also sounds like an 80s porn name.
How about Robert Jenkins, AC Miles? Oh God, the people in the bar chat deserve shout outs, Aldo.
Oh my God.
I know you know Patrick Azawowski, his first shout out. He's willing to drive down from Wisconsin to join AJ and the Barflies. Aldo supplying the donuts. I volunteered that for you.
Oh, absolutely. Because I know that anybody that drives down from Wisconsin is going to bring about 3 or 4 fat chicks with him.
How about Magic Madge? Another female Bears barfly, really supporting the cause. Heidi Zimmerman, Andrea, another female.
Heidi! Wait a minute, don't
Heidi.
skip over Heidi. Heidi is great, and I'm trying to get her to submit a video to our Firefox video, and she says, no, I'm not photogenic. Heidi, you're photogenic.
What?
Trust me, Heidi, you're photogenic. I've seen your picture. Send that video over.
Yeah, she deserves to be in my music video. Heidi, I want you in the video. I know Aldo does too.
Phil, you got to shout out AC. Lady loves the Bears. She just got a new job. A new job today. So, AC, good luck on your new job, and sorry about what Alabama's going to do to you this weekend. You and your Mississippi State. And one more.
AC is a great shout out because she's not afraid to step up into the pocket and call a truth. You know, she supports the Bears bar room and what we're doing and the Firefox song. I'm going to have to say that verse for her one day. Next show live. I got to give her Who the Fuck is Mike Glennon.
I do want to shout out Mr. and Mrs. Childress up in Kansas City. I hope they stay there a long, long time. They deserve it, and they're happy there, and it's fabulous. Stay right where you are.
Hey, I got to shout out.
Can I shout out Deion Sanders?
In his bow tie.
Wait a minute. Before you do that, I'm going to just kill the music. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
First of all, you know, I have a lot of followers I debate with, and I never get personal. There's no personal. I just don't. I get upset.
You're a better man than I am.
I know. I would get upset with myself. I shouldn't say I take it personally sometimes, but I'm not debating anyone's personal looks. I don't throw anything like that.
Aldo makes phone calls.
blowing out fraud brothers like Nintendo. That's one of the lyrics in that song. But I gotta say, when me and Mike Brez went back and forth on the subject of football, I don't think you need a yellow jacket to be superior to somebody else without one. I mean, that's pretty obvious. So I don't know where Brez went, but I think as soon as Brez started to take up for Deion Sanders, Deion has taken this precipitous fall from grace of every kind in how he's handled every analytic moment on national television. Each time it gets worse and worse. And the situation with Tony Romo, I just wanted to address, you know, if we're going to point out this guy looks like the next Russell Wilson, this guy looks like LT as a pass rusher, this guy looks like Walter Payton. Well, it goes the other way too. Why is it all of a sudden politically incorrect to call out a Hall of Fame football player who clearly had no effort and energy into tackling, and for Romo to just point that out, I mean, reminded me of myself, because that's what I would have said too. Looks like he's making business decisions. He's a selfish football player. That's not how you win games. And Deion, he would be my bear down of the week and my worst tweet of the week. Deion, I have no care whatsoever. A guy can be the greatest football player of all time. Doesn't mean he's going to be right. And when they're so wrong, it's time to admit their faults. I don't know how NFL Network continues to employ that guy, Aldo.
but really, ultimately, it's an embarrassment to me, and it has nothing to do with race. I know people try to make this into something it's not. It has everything to do with the person, because honestly, I love people, and when I see a fraud and a phony, I'm just going to call it out, and Deion Sanders is in that fraud ship that's sinking.
I have a theory on why the NFL Network still employs Deion Sanders. He knows all the best hookers. He knows. There's value in that, I'm told. All right, are we done with our shout-outs? We've only been going 10 minutes. Come on, guys.
Shane still. I want to shout out Shane's wife. Wish her a happy birthday, belated birthday.
Yeah.
Both in their 40s. They got one ginormous son. They're working on others. Hopefully we can get an offensive line in Chicago or my flag football team. Your son could come down and start.
Yeah, we'll get you.
Do a better protecting.
Riley can play left tackle, and the next one can play right tackle. We'll get Leno and Massey out of here.
Hey, have you guys tested out your 280 characters yet on Twitter?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, man. I am
No,
so...
but I'm going to promote the fuck out of this show, though.
Yeah, I'm so excited about having this opportunity. Because I noticed in the debate that Shane and Chachi were having on Twitter regarding Brad Childress that Chachi had the advantage because he had 280 characters and Shane was only working with 140. That didn't seem fair to me.
It's not a fair fight.
I was in my defense. I was prepping for this show. You guys heard me in the pre-show. I was tweeting back and forth, but no, we bumped fists and now we move on.
Oh, fellas, I think we are done, man. I mean, it is 11:40 p.m. on the East Coast. Go ahead.
Can I shout out John Bradley from across the pond?
Yeah.
Reaching out to the Bears Barroom, promoting the Bears Barroom, but then asking us for some help. And guess what? We step up to the plate for the Barflies, don't we, Shane?
Yes, we do.
We're trying to get Bears Packers on. UK needed a vote. How about us across the pond in America sending votes Barfly's way over in Europe? So all of you European fans out there listening in, we appreciate you. We're trying to get you that Bears game out there. It's the little things, Aldo.
I love it. All right, I think it is time for you guys to get some sleep because I know you got jobs. I know you've got kids to feed in the morning. I know that I've got 4 hours of editing ahead of me. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Can we get some more of those all-night shots of you?
Yeah, I think
those were great.
Yeah, in fact, I got a couple of requests from the ladies out there that they want to see less clothing on me when I do those.
Less what? I didn't hear that.
Less clothing on me.
Look, stripping down.
Yeah,
that's called the mute button for you and I, Phil.
So you might see a nipple shot this around 3 a.m. in the morning.
The Elaine Bennis nipple.
Yeah, right.
Christmas card.
Hey, let me ask you guys a serious question here. I gotta lower the music for this. You guys ever have like t-shirts that you've kept for like 10, 15, 20 years?
Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, like these shirts they feel so good. They still don't look good anymore, but you remember when they looked good, right? And so I had this shirt that I have had since it's 18 years. I actually sat down and counted when I bought it and stuff. 18 years, and it had a little, a couple little holes here and there. Well, all of a sudden, this was before the Notre Dame game. I had worn it to bed, and so I'm getting up in the morning, getting ready. And I went and I brushed something off of the shirt, and all of a sudden I ripped a hole right above the nipple. Right above my nipple. And I swear to God, I felt like I was going to cry, man. I was like, this is one of my favorite T-shirts, man. And my wife was like, you got to get rid of that fucking T-shirt. Well, I'm going to post a picture.
What is the T-shirt?
It was a white with gray trimming Spalding T-shirt. It was over the Spalding emblem.
Spalding.
Yeah.
Holy Spalding.
Right, Spalding. That shows you how old it was.
Aldo raining threes on the mean courts of Chicago.
And it shows you how old it was, right? Well, I was right above the Spalding emblem that I went and I did something, and all of a sudden there's this hole. So I am actually going to post that picture of my nipples sticking out of that Spalding T-shirt.
Nice.
And I just, we always try to start our podcast with a listener discretion. Well, this is viewer discretion when I post this thing.
Viewer discretion is advised.
My nipple is a scary, scary looking thing. All right, fellas.
The Aldo nipple graphic coming up tomorrow. Shane, can you make that for us with one of those?
I'll get right on that one, true Phil.
Oh my goodness!
Take a picture of a piece of pepperoni and put it.
Shane, how many hours of sleep are you going to get tonight, Shane?
I have to get up.
Guy doesn't sleep though.
A little bit before 4.
Wow.
3:45 I got to get up.
And you have energy throughout the day with just 3, 4, 5 hours of sleep?
No, not all day. Drink some coffee, some 5-hour energy. Ela kicks my ass. That motivates me a little bit sometimes.
Now, where do you get your coffee? This is a big barfly discussion.
I'm not a Starbucks guy. I'm a Dunkin' Donuts guy.
There you go.
We're close enough. We're close enough up here to Canada. There's a lot of Tim Hortons around too.
Oh, Canada.
Yeah. The Canadian
Seriously,
peeps will know.
So give me your order at the drive-thru real quick. Yeah, can I help you?
Yeah, medium vanilla chai.
Do you want any sugar in that, sir?
No.
Okay. Aldo? What are you, Aldo?
Whatever. I don't care what it is as long as there's a shot of Maker's Mark in it.
So you're not a coffee connoisseur?
Actually, I love coffee and I drink it black, straight black, and I love trying different types of coffee. So you can't pin me down.
Are you like a coffee house guy? You give me that vibe. Like, here's Grounds and Rounds.
No,
Aldo's there.
Not that much. I just like different coffees, but I can't recite names or brands or anything like that. I go to the supermarket, I pick something that's got some nice packaging, and I give it.
Oh, you're a home guy. You make you're not going to coffee shop. That's what I meant.
No, I don't do that shit.
I thought you took in like guitar players at the coffee shop.
No, not.
He's got his
image of Aldo.
He's got his nipple exposed, listening to Coffee House.
Yeah, not unless they got really big tits. No.
The fucking nipple.
To be honest with you, I used to go to this coffee shop often, and it was because the barista.
I think we've completely come off the rails.
Oh yeah,
this is the best story ever shared. The nipple story.
Yeah. I used to go to one coffee shop quite frequently, but it was only because the barista there had some really huge tits. and I used to ask for cream with my coffee, but she never really complied. All right.
Hey, we forgot to shout out Lauren Cox. Have you guys seen his beard? He's got like a 15, 16-year-old kid beard. We got to give him a little bit of shout out going with the old facial hair there. See that picture I posted?
Yeah.
All grown up.
Kids growing up right before us.
Well, you posted that as in a DM. Did you post that in the regular Twitter feed?
No, I wasn't gonna go that far.
No, you need to. You need to go that far.
Listen, I just am letting people know Nutella is a hair growth. And if you rub it on your head, you might grow hair. This kid loves Nutella. He's rubbing it on his face.
Yeah.
He's including it in his promiscuousness. So Nutella's a big form in Cox's life. It's a Cox life.
I think it's time to go when Phil makes up whole new words, Aldo.
Oh my God! I'm the only one drinking here, and you guys are as funny as hell.
Sipping on some Di Serono on the rocks over here.
Oh, God bless you! I love that.
One of my favorite drinks, people.
Good stuff. Yeah.
If you ever want to send me a Christmas gift,
Oh, you got it, brother. I'm gonna
Di
take care of it.
Serono is the way to go.
Oh, does your wife like it too?
Oh yeah.
Good.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Shane, what do you and your wife like to drink on Saturday night when you're trying to make babies?
Hila is not a drinker. She's
No.
probably the only European that doesn't drink. Her mother
What?
Wow.
Her mother drinks, her father drinks, I drink, and yeah. Well, I got some good stuff here called Slavovica that her father makes. Woo.
Yeah.
That'll put some
100
hair on. 100. Yeah, that's putting an. I swear to God, it tastes just like. If you take a shot of it, it tastes just like spring water for like 6 or 7 seconds, and then you better wash out. Oh man.
This is like a Christmas Day drink, huh?
Yeah, it's totally clear, and it's made from plums and apricots and something else. But
That sounds like grappa. My grandfather made grappa. It sounds exactly like it, except grappa will hit you right in the nostrils right away.
Yeah, this takes a good 5, 6, 7 seconds, and then it's like a volcano in your esophagus. It's crazy. I'll have to send you guys the video. I have a video of my father thinking he's a badass. He's like, "Oh, pour me some." So I gave it to him, and he slams it down. He's just sitting there looking around like, "Fuck, this ain't bad." And then he just starts coughing and gagging. And the video that I've had for a few years on my phone. So yeah, I'll have to send that out to you guys.
Shane, can you ask Hila what the translation is? Is it Alberto Riveron?
Yeah, I think so.
Because that's what he's fucking drinking in there. In the booth. What the hell is he doing?
Yeah, that's a whole nother show too.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
He's the worst.
Who, Larry Mayer?
Oh my God. Can we run 5 minutes on Mayer?
No. I'm ready for bed.
Not tonight. A Christmas special. Just every Larry Mayer question we could find, like audio of. Coach Fox, do you know I heard through the grapevine that at one point Larry Mayer demanded to the media, to the whole media circuit, that he have the first question every presser.
Nice.
That's who you're dealing with, guys. That's who and that's from someone who formerly used to be a part of the Bears media circus.
Hey, I gotta.
Wow.
I don't know if you gave a shout out to B Diddy at BQuinn34. But
I did.
Yeah, excellent. I'm glad you did. He sent out this picture of lunch with Larry, and Larry, and Larry's at his laptop.
With the eye black.
Yes. And
He's got the eye black on.
Really
He's
stupid.
That's under center.
That's not even doctored, Aldo. That's a real picture.
He modeled for that.
Yeah, no, that's real. ChicagoBears.com put that out.
Oh
He
my
went to
God.
Quick Clips, Sports Clips. He got the haircut.
Yeah.
He got
Put
the eyebrows
on.
trimmed.
Yeah, open up his laptop and get some questions. And I still don't want his fucking autograph.
The thing is that I'm pretty sure he's hiding his 2-inch erection there. The way he's maneuvered that laptop in front of him, something just feels really creepy about that picture, man.
I'm gonna save that picture. You know, we dropped the ball, guys, because we never put out the poem we worked so hard on with the Mike Glenn and Freddy Krueger for Halloween. How did we miss that?
Man, I forgot all about that.
I gotta tell you, man, I screwed up this Halloween because I had so many special things planned. I love Halloween, and I had sound effects and all sorts of stuff for our podcast and for stories, and it just got away from me. So I screwed up big time.
You fucked us.
By the time the show ends, it might be Halloween again, you fuckers.
Poor Shane. He's got to get
my
up in
son
about 2
will be
hours.
happy.
Yeah.
My quick story. My son Tate. He sings "Fire John Fox" just out of nowhere. So he's singing "Fire John Fox" tonight. And I'm like, oh, that's good, Tate. Good job. And he's like, loves that reggae part where I'm like, "Fire Fox, Fire Fox." Fire.
I love that too.
He'll do that, I don't know. And then I go, okay, it's time. I forget that everyone was watching a show, and he goes to me, Daddy, Halloween's my favorite holiday. I go, well, why? He's like, smiles on his face. He's like, I love the candy, Daddy. I just love the candy. Fire Fox. And he just says fire. Like a dog for a treat.
That's hilarious.
Gotta love it.
Oh, okay.
Gotta love kids.
Oh, man. You got some cute ones, bro. All right. We are approaching 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Wow.
Shane, can you stay up another 20 minutes and just let's make this a fucking record 3-hour podcast?
I want to pull it up 3 hours.
Let's do it, bro. Phil and I can do it, man. You need to go to bed, go to bed. Phil and I are going to talk about you and your wife making babies and all that stuff. You might want to stick around for that part.
She did ask me, she's like, what's going on tonight? And I said, well, I got to record. She just looked at me and rolled her eyes. So I am taking one for the team.
We all have. My wife's just used to, okay, I'm not going to see you Monday. I'm not going to see you Tuesday. Yeah. Wednesday, we're going to do something. So we watch Walking Dead on Wednesday.
Oh, good show.
Because obviously Sunday, I'm all fired up with the Bears. And then we got Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday we catch up. So don't spoil it for us, you Twitter guys.
Never seen it.
I know, Shane. He only watches one show. One show, Shane.
Actually, 2. My other show started tonight.
What was that?
I'm a big Curse of Oak Island. Have you ever seen that? It's on History Channel.
What?
Yeah, I'm telling you. Check it out. It's an awesome show.
What's the title again?
It's called The Curse of Oak Island.
What the fuck's it about?
It's about island called Oak Island. It's up in Nova Scotia, where they're saying there's a bunch of treasure hidden, and Marty Lagina and his brother from Michigan, they bought 90% of the island, and they've been following them for 2 or 3 years, and they're unearthing all of this shit. It's actually super interesting to watch. I love the show. Just started back up again tonight.
I'll take your word for it.
I got it DVR'd. Yeah.
Sounds somewhat interesting.
It is, man. I'm telling you, you watch it, you'll get hooked.
Shane is not a connoisseur of television dramas.
No, huh?
No, I watched that, and I watched Designated Survivor. Those are my 2 shows.
That's a decent show. Well,
reality mix. He likes NFL football.
Hey,
I don't know how. He watches baseball. Basketball, for God's sake. I haven't watched an NBA game since Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson were playing.
Oh shit, that's the 80s. Back to the 80s.
Yeah, I have not watched an NBA game. I'm talking from start to finish. I've seen it on TV for fun.
Shane, what's your favorite movie of all time?
My favorite movie?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's hard.
Name one out of the many.
You'll laugh at me. Rocky 4. Love it.
Really deep,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, big time.
That's the one with the Russian, right?
Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drago.
I don't blame you.
I wonder why he married a Russian.
Yeah, that's right.
No, wait a minute. Let's make this clear. She does not like being called a Russian, correct?
Oh no, yeah, she'll kick the shit out of Phil when they do.
Oh no.
How's that? Yeah.
My son sang her a happy birthday song. I think she could skip over one error.
She did love that. She appreciated it. I even had to. She was just stepping out of the shower, so she watched that one naked, and she thought it was awesome.
Oh, naked. I hope it led to some extra curriculum.
Oh, it always does. You know those.
There you go.
Girls.
There you go.
She knows where her bread is buttered. Yeah, she won the man lottery. She knows. She's a good girl.
Aldo, what's your favorite movie?
Well, let's see. I have a lot of them, but I always hate to pick favorites, But
Me too. That's hard for me.
It really is. But if I have to name one off the top of my head, I would say Apocalypse Now, the Vietnam War movie. I just thought that was brilliantly done with lots of emotion. It really made an impact on me when I was a 18, 19-year-old kid and I saw it. So it's not a sexy pick, but Apocalypse Now, a great Vietnam anti-war movie.
I was a big Shawshank Redemption guy too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, phenomenal movie.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep. Excellent. Man, I don't know where I came up with all this music for our background, but it's actually
I love it.
Pretty damn good, right?
Yeah. I'm feeling your vibes tonight, Aldo.
Man,
the nipple vibes.
Yeah. I gotta tell you,
Nipplegate.
Phil, I want to collaborate with you on a future tune for the barroom. I've got a lot of ideas. None of them are any good, but maybe you can turn one into a good one.
Well, I'm currently finishing up the final touches for next week's Bears 100 Proof song. That I think is going to be really good, and just to give the fan that has stayed with the show a little scoop and tease, it's gonna be about Aldo, Shane, and myself and the Barflies.
Ooh, nice.
The importance of the Bears Barroom Radio.
Topless.
So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Making
wait.
the LP. That's the goal. And someone asked me what an LP is. I forgot. In millennia speak, they don't know what that is. So, if you're on the
There he goes again.
I'm sorry.
Got an erection again.
I went to get a sip of water and knock the mic. A long play, and that's the whole album. When you signed a record deal, you can get a single deal or an LP, which is a long play. That's what it stands for, and it's 15 to 18 tracks on an album. So I'm gonna shoot for an LP for the Bears Barroom Radio Network.
Man, if you do that, I'm gonna be out there like. And back in the 60s, guys were out at the radio station saying, please play this record, please play this record. I'll be doing the same thing, driving from small town to small town and trying to get Draft Dr. Phil's LP on the radio.
I'm gonna work on it. I got 3 in the books. Asterisk Catch is gonna be a song I'm writing too. I think Zach Miller deserves a song.
Yeah. Did you get approval from the Bears brothers?
The Fraud Brothers? No, I didn't. I'm sure they're working on their first. What other podcast is giving you creative songs and raps and segments?
I don't know, but
I'm just wondering, especially about the Bears.
If there's one out there, I'm sure they're making more money than we are. Shane, I know you gotta leave, bro.
It is midnight.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
No,
we
man.
broke the record.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that's I was just gonna send out a tweet. It says at Bears Barroom Radio checking in at the 3-hour mark.
Yeah.
There it is.
You know,
there it is.
I got this image of
Poor Aldo's got to go through and pick out some stuff.
Yeah, I gotta make a run to buy some cocaine first. Hey, I got this image of like all the bar stools are up on the bar, all the chairs are up on the tables, and there's like one waiter like looking at us and saying, "Get the fuck out of here, so I can close this place."
We're trying to get that last chick's number. Aldo's working every angle, his nipple angle. He's got coke. I got nipple. Tickets to the Bears Packers.
All right, fellas, I'm going to pull the plug.
All right, boys.
Thank you for
fun one.
Thank you for your expertise, your time, dedication, all of it. I really appreciate it.
You too, sir.
All right, brother.
You too. It's a lot of fun.
All right. Always.
Later.
Later, guys.
Later, guys.
I was standing right behind him when he was warming up and saw him kind of reach for his groin and, you know, hold it and whatever you do with the groin, rub it. That's what I think I witnessed. It twinged a little bit on him.